We are live. Good afternoon, Wednesday, April 15th, 2026, in-house transportation. And we are going to spend some time this afternoon hearing a little bit about some language and some possible potential requests from the DMV on some things that didn't make it into the bill originally and or weren't ready at the time the bill was in the Senate. And that sound about right? Is that what we're talking about? For the first one, and we'll hit over to the second one. So, I think, is there a presentation that goes with this that's on our page? Yes. Okay. If you wouldn't mind, Lieutenant, we would love to have you come join us in the witness chair and tell us why we're all gathered here this afternoon. For you, attention of all the House Transportation. Welcome to committee. Feel free to
Thank you.
take the seat if you'd like, or however it works for you. Where are you most comfortable with?
Everything. Yeah.
So currently, there are 3 different state laws.
Yeah, first thing you have to do is, I'm sorry, I should have introduced yourself for the record, and then we'll go.
Lieutenant Steve Catito with Vermont DMV.
Excellent.
So there are 3 different state statutes that deal with handheld devices and texting. 2 of them are use of handheld devices for passenger cars and texting in passenger cars. The third is specifically for CDL holders that are operating commercial trucks. And the proposed language would essentially make it the same as for passenger cars. Currently, there have been some challenges in traffic court hearings with the current language. And the most important part of this specifically is that CDL holders are held to a higher standard. And there is a mandatory reporting requirement that we have for certain violations that are major offenses. Handheld devices use while driving and texting is a major offense. So the federal government maintains a program called SIDList. And SIDList was designed so it's a single database for all of the CDL holder information. So it creates one record for anybody that has a CDL, regardless of how many states that they've lived in. And it also prohibits drivers from having more than one CDL at a time. So as far as the major moving offenses, when you get convictions of these types of offenses, you can go under the CDL can go under a disqualification. It's different than a license suspension, but it would prohibit them from working for a period of either 60 days or 120 days if they get 2 convictions or 3 convictions in a 3-year period. So it's very important for us to report this conviction, this offense to SIDList, and the language would just clear it up and make it easier for us to get convictions in traffic court to report these. Any questions on any of that?
So if I understand correctly, this is a change to the CDL sort of rules that and that use of a handheld device, gets forwarded to the proper records.
Yes. Yes.
So the rule about no handheld device is the same for a CDL driver or a passenger vehicle.
It is, but the wording is currently different. So the problem specifically right now that we're having is that under the commercial driver section, if a driver has the phone in their hand, we have to prove that they're actually using the device. Whereas with the passenger car, it's a hands-free. We're just trying to mirror the commercial section with the passenger vehicle section.
So then a commercial driver wouldn't be able to say, I wasn't using it, I was just holding it in my hand.
Correct.
We did this 2 or 3 years ago for your regular car. I think this was Representative Shaw's language that we passed. If I'm correct, yeah, 3 years ago that we took care of sort of that loophole for, your non-CDL drivers.
On the federal side, does our rule, is it the same? Is our rule stricter? Can we have stricter rules for CDLs? Than other states? So how does it measure up on the overall compared to other states or the federal rules?
So the states can have stricter rules. The states also, they have a federal statute that essentially, when we do truck inspections, we work under federal administrative authority. So there's a federal statute that we can adopt our state laws into the federal inspection process because we are sworn law enforcement. So.
Okay,
So all of the sections that are underlined would be the new changes. Those definitions aren't in the law now.
The definitions of, some of it, yes. The texting is defined. What we're looking to add, all of it, but it's the hands-free use is the biggest obstacle that we've had in traffic court.
Which would be number,
So that would be number 4.
prohibition is not applied in occupation. It's really not to one occupation. And
This is probably identical language that passed. Which Representative Shaw wanted.
Representative Shaw wanted it, and the difference is we didn't cover it for commercial at the time.
Correct.
Did that just happen, or was that a choice at the time? Do you know?
I don't think it even probably occurred to us, yeah.
I do vaguely remember that. I don't. Maybe I was here.
Yeah, you might have, I think it was like.
You were here, can't get out of this.
Can't get out of this. Oh, come on. Well, I was sitting in Representative Keyser's seat, so. I was just, so I guess that would be the spot where we'll have to have our alleged counsel in here to walk us through the piece. But, so if I understand it, I guess I'm repeating what Representative Pouch said. Right now, there's a loop in there, or there's in effect a spot in there where a commercial can say I have it in my hand, but I'm not using it. And that has caused a problem with convictions. And you'd like to close that loophole, particularly on the commercial driver's side. And for us to be able to move forward, we would need to hear from alleged counsel. We probably have to run it through the judiciary too, I would bet, huh? Or not.
Yeah, I think, the way I look at it is we're just syncing it up to oversight that we didn't think about. Yeah. I
Guess we
think
have to
pretty
ask
much everybody
truckers.
was on board when we took it up last time. I think we had the state police thing, but again, they don't really deal with obviously commercial. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions or concerns?
well,
Yes, please.
just sort of on a side note, how active, in your opinion, I guess, are the DMV folks like looking for this? I mean, do you visually see this happening? And 2, if there's an accident of some kind, what's the process where, and you might suspect texting or something, whether it's per passenger or CDL, what's the process to find out?
That would depend, that would be situational. It's not a clear answer. If it was a crash, it just would, the seriousness of it, if it was a fatality or serious bodily injury, we would actually seize the device and apply for warrants we would do preservation letters first, then get the warrants, get the phone and text records. It's not uncommon for us to find this violation.
That's a good answer. Yeah.
Representative Burke?
Again, it's really important to take that so seriously with the texting. And to line that with the other statutes seems to make a lot of sense.
In the section number 1, no operator shall engage in texting while driving a commercial motor vehicle in a place open temporarily or permanently to public or general service, including while the vehicle is stationary. What, meaning anywhere on the highway, or even if they're pulled off, or if they're at a, stop, traffic's backed up in construction and you're not moving, you still can't.
No, yeah, it's traffic, traffic lights, constructions.
Funny, because I got a story about that.
Between the
But
car.
you're not considered on the highway if you've pulled off to a rest area or
Or
what about
the,
just in the breakdown lane? But if you're on the,
yeah, so that's already, not sure if that's in the proposal or if it's in the actual statute already. Actually, that is under driving, A1.
would you say that as a passenger and or as a commercial vehicle, license? I'm not stopped at the red light, I can't use it even if I can't use it at the red light, technically?
Because you're still in traffic.
We went
I was
through-
with
we
you.
went through that.
I fought tooth and nail for that position. I didn't get my way. I thought it was buttons. I'm a saying. But anyways, I digress. I lost it. But I did get offside the road. And if you're like going through Dunkin' Donuts, you're allowed to do
Dunkin' Donuts on.
it. Or like a drive-through.
Right.
Right, as long as you're off the traveled way.
Yeah.
Lots of public highway.
Yeah. But
But not the breakdown lane.
yeah, no, breakdown. Yeah, well, not if you're offside.
Okay.
But I was right with you on that. I was right with you. It's in win though. Yeah.
Now's the time to change it.
Yes.
Representative Howe?
I'll just say I appreciate your comments, and it's not uncommon for me as a driver to see, or a biker, to see, how prevalent it is. It really can be. And if I've ever picked up my phone and done something for even just a second, I realize very quickly that you're totally distracted. It really is dangerous, and at least my family has made a policy that we all agree we won't do that because it is really so dangerous.
And for the commercial drivers, I wouldn't say that there's more of a temptation, but that's their work. So they're in that truck, most of the day, and it's more, I wouldn't say, well, maybe tempting, but it's you have to communicate, so.
But I guess now there's much more hands-free ability, so ideally it would go down, but it doesn't mean you're not distracted, talking or even talking text.
So if I have it in my hand, even if I have it on a speakerphone, that's no good.
No.
Why would you have it in your hand if you're not?
Because I don't have a place to mount it, so it's sitting there, otherwise it's gonna slide off slide off.
Coffee cup, mug, coffee thing.
That coffee cup is full of something. But I'm just curious, so if you do happen to have it and you're on speakerphone, if you're holding on to it, that's considered use.
Yes.
Of course, you'd have to be holding up.
You know why?
But,
I want you to know, Lieutenant, I am in a carpool every day. Let's be very clear. So I don't do any of those things. I'm in a carpool and I do not drive, but I do use my phone while I'm in that carpool. But I'm not the driver. And the coffee cup holder.
We haven't outlawed that yet.
So, Representative Casey.
So say in the future you got autonomous vehicles on the road. Say maybe the technology comes along and it's in trucks too. Is there any provision in there for,
For autonomous, no.
there isn't any autonomous vehicles in the state, is there right now, is it?
In Vermont, no, but they are operating in the southwest portion of the country pretty regularly.
And if they got engaged where it's driving, would you still be in? Like, say if it was here, would you be in trouble? I'm not gonna go through and do this. I'm not gonna have a vehicle that drives. I like to drive, so
That would be something
in the
that would
future.
have to be debated in the future.
So too far out front.
I mean, some states have passed legislation that require autonomous vehicles to have a licensed driver with them. Other states, Texas, for example, they are operating fully autonomous.
Yep. Just probably down there, you still have to comply with rules as if it wasn't autonomous, right? It'd still be probably,
Correct, but you take out the driver piece, so any of the driver violations wouldn't apply.
So I suppose we gotta go here from Bill. Yeah, trucking wise and.
Yeah, and so I'm assuming this came up, because it's the little loophole and you're looking to close this loophole.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. And I will hear from the legislative council, because it seems like an awful lot of language that's underlined, of new language to be added in to change one piece. So I just want to understand why are we adding new definitions? Are those repeated definitions from somewhere else?
Those are repeated, a lot of it is repeated from the passenger vehicle statute.
Okay, because if it's all new, that does put a different. Usually a technical correction doesn't involve, at least my perspective, be that much of an underlying.
It's just underlined because it's in a different.
Different
Commercial world, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
but it's the same, yeah,
it's the same word.
yeah, same.
I've learned a lot about what some people are doing wrong in their vehicle today. Thank you very much. Unless anybody's got anybody else, we're gonna go get a comment from the judiciary. We'll get our ledge council to walk through it, and then we'll see if we have comment from commercial drivers that are out in the world, that are in the building, being advocated for on a regular basis. And anybody else that has an opinion on what we should do. And this is not currently in the bill, so if we were to put it in, it would have to be moved in as an amendment to the ENV, we would be amending it and adding it to section 34 or on. So we'll talk to Dane about that and whether or not we think that's worthwhile of moving forward. Generally speaking, somebody in the committee would have to move it forward to add it to the bill. Representative Casey.
this would help you guys do your job easier, right? Or,
Yes.
okay.
Okay. Good question. Anybody else? Lieutenant, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your patience while we got off the floor.
No problem.
Proposing a potential amendment to the miscellaneous motor vehicle bill S 326. Oh. They're coming back? We have another piece. Is this also in, on the website, or is there no presentation part with this next section? This is just testimony. Okay. I guess. You're up again. A return witness. Oh, we're all, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I guess, there we go. Yes, you do want to, I gotta pull out my bill, section 25 through 27.
Good afternoon again, Lieutenant Jeremy Stearns, Vermont DMV Enforcement and Safety. And I was asked to come before you. I believe you did a read through of this section and had some questions regarding how we got here and some questions on how this might look moving forward to register these specialty type vehicles. So no real presentation other than I'm here before you to answer some of those questions and help maybe walk you through the vision of how this might work.
Well, the first question was that on their advertisement of the people requesting this particular piece was they had a Vermont license plate on the vehicle, right? Am I in the right spot? And they can't register them today, isn't that, so how'd that happen? Well, that was for show only, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really.
Yeah, you weren't here part of that. It was, perfect.
Okay, yeah. I believe the way this is crafted is it's leaning towards the exhibition plate as the proper registration, which is a limited type plate. I believe we don't think that we need to create a specialty vehicle plate. It fits based on this language with the requirements for antique vehicle plates and exhibitions, very limited in scope on what they're able to do. The little difference with this one is they're able to drive with passenger, I believe, 1 day a week.
Speaking of 1 day a week, how would you ever enforce something like that?
This has always been a very challenging thing to enforce because you would have to have some history and you'd have to know these vehicles and, you'd have to do a lot of research on the back and as a patrol officer to determine, hey, are they headed to a meet? Is there a club? Is there something going on in the community? What's the purpose? Are they driving it every day, time of day? So a lot of investigation would have to go in to make this enforceable.
Representative Roy?
So I think our question was, if they're going to an exhibition, and it's, can they go out of state, or even if they're in state from north to south? The expectation for them to get there all day and come back in the same day may not happen. So I'm concerned about just 1 day a week. If they were going to an exhibition and got there early in the morning, were there all day with the truck or whatever these things are called. Keys, are these the keys?
No,
These are. So, and they stay overnight and then the next day they may have a half a day of exhibition and then they're driving home. That's 2 days.
right. Again, there I imagine would be a stopping and a starting period between both of those. And if generally in the instances, if they can articulate, hey, I'm headed to this event, a lot of times they'll have brochures that be able to pull that up now in this world and show that. I don't see where we're enforcing or saying, okay, you drove this 2 days, or are we monitoring them throughout the journeys that they're taking from point A to point B?
Representative Casey and then Representative Pouch?
No antique vehicles, are they technically only supposed to be driven once a week?
They follow similarly. They're vehicles that are 25 years or older, very limited in scope. There's reductions in the registration fee. We have a little bit of that where part of the previous conversation was this setting clear definitions. Because when you talk about some of these specialty vehicles, kit cars, homemade vehicles, antiques, they all kind of blur a little bit in how we choose to register them and sort of what box they fall into. This particular suggestion is adding a new definition. But with the study that we had done and presented to Senate, we had recommended some other potential definitions as well, but obviously those were not proposed. We just have a new definition being proposed.
Have you ever given a ticket for like an antique vehicle? Has anybody ever given them a ticket?
I don't have the data points. I know.
Too slow.
I know.
No, I mean, driving it more than once a week.
I haven't personally, but what I'm saying is if it was enforced, I wouldn't have the statistics on if there's been a ticket issued for you, but there would have had to been much research or had to been somebody that was operating an antique vehicle outside of the framework that it was intended. And an officer had observed that vehicle probably driving every day to and from work, and it became part of their radar and they did that research. So I personally, I've had contacts where I believe they might be doing that, where it was educational, but it didn't ever, evolve into a warning or ticket.
Wasn't worth bothering with.
It was a conversation to understand they get a reduction in what they pay for a registration fee. So, 25 years old vehicle is not so So old, in some circles, the intent of the antique was something that was, really, really old. And somebody that obviously did not want to run that through a Vermont winter or drive it as their daily driver.
But technically, an antique vehicle, you're under the assumption that you can only drive it one day a week? Is that like a rule right now?
It follows that same, I would have to look at the definition, but the antique plate and the exhibition plate follow very specified uses.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Representative Cox?
Sort of, that was where I was thinking as you described it. I imagine there's a lot of people with cars that are more than 25 years old and they're just normally registered. They're not specifically saying, I want to get an antique plate and then follow through with the antique, registration. And then with that comes antique vehicle limitations.
Correct. So again, we don't want, obviously, that's partly probably why it was framed that way. For the person to, if they're truly using that for an antique vehicle, it's not something that they're using every day, putting a bunch of miles on. It's something that they're limited. To open that up, we would probably see a huge increase in people choosing. But because those limitations, that prevents that.
And I guess we're not going to address the language that says if it's more than 25 years old, it's an antique. Okay. Seems kind of, not a real antique, but I guess.
25 years used to seem like a long time.
Well, the evolution of cars too. Cars are very modern now with a lot of computer systems and stuff in them. So 25 years ago, those systems were prevalent. When this was, I believe, put into law, it was much different spread of what the modern vehicle looks like versus what an antique is.
Representative Casey?
So the car that we saw out here last year, that Corvette looking thing, are they, the only way they could, with this, is the only way they'll be able to register the vehicle is under a special plate deal, right? They wouldn't be able to go just pay for a regular rate registration, like 90 some odd dollars and drive it every day. Not that it's want but.
Correct. In the way that this is written. Correct.
Yeah. So,
They wouldn't be able to pass inspection with that vehicle because the emissions wouldn't pass. And this is giving them an exemption from that under the condition that it's only operated under certain parameters.
Correct.
And in that, I guess, that's what I'm understanding from what Representative Casey said, but in the section 26, the commissioner shall issue a certificate of registration for not more than 12 limited use specialty vehicles per year. Now this particular company said they're only going to try to register one, but I don't know how many other vehicles could fit under this. Does that really mean that the first come, first served 12? Well, if you're the 13th person in line, you're not going to get one? That's what it reads, but I didn't gather that was what the intent was.
So some of that was derived from population. SB 100 was brought up in the study, which is a California sort of pathway that the study looked at. And based on their population and our population, we did a little bit of math. I'm not a mathematician, but that's where sort of some of those suggestions as a starting point were derived from.
So you do mean, or it does mean to limit it, that 12 is all they're going to be for the total. But would those 12 be able to renew and 12 new ones with the next year? Do you see what it sounds like you wouldn't be issuing a registration beyond 12.
It's 12 new a year.
Yeah, 12 a year.
Oh, yeah.
And the limitation, much like the exhibition plate, is designed for, there were some barriers that were hit with emissions, which there's clearly language in here to exempt that, but also walking a line of being in compliance with federal requirements for these vehicles. A lot of it derives from the engine. And I believe the individual had issues with the configuration of such engine. And there's certain limitations that require hefty costs to get your engine certified in a configuration that meets federal standard. And they would have, if you moved any of those components around even slightly, that would need to be recertified. And that became part of, I believe, the decision point to put in language to exempt the emissions and limit the number of these that we would allow.
Representative Houston?
When we had gone through this prior, there was a suggestion that we insert new certificates, yearly certificates. Yeah, registration, excuse me. So in the beginning of your comments, did I understand you to say that this particular limited use specialty vehicles is in the definition that the department needs, that you could find other places, or no, that's not what I heard? Okay,
No.
that's not what you said.
This was the recommended definition put forth. When we did the study, there are other definitions that we use in Vermont for homemade, kit car, street rod. And some of those, there's a little bit of grayness and they kind of overlap. Right now, we have sort of the one process, and specialty vehicles that are remade. Somebody puts a vehicle together. There's certain situations and scenarios where those need to go through a different inspection process with certified street rod stations, and certain emissions requirements.
Sure. Okay, I was just curious. So this would require a separate plate, a new plate, wouldn't it?
I believe we could use the existing exhibition plate.
That's what you
Because
were saying.
those-
Okay,
Those definitions, much like the last presentation, are very similar in the scope.
so that would keep your costs down too.
Correct. We wouldn't have to create a new plate.
Thank you.
I guess I'll revisit that question. Should we amend this bill to say that it's for new registrations and not total registrations? So you can re-register.
Yeah.
You understand it?
How many do we don't have any?
I don't think so. We may have
They
one.
start at $600,000.
But they get discounted registration fee. Because it's not a tax, it's a user fee for the road, and it's a user fee that's based on 1 day a week, 1/52nd. So in fact, technically, I guess should be lower than $26, huh? But there's a cost for.
If they can afford a $600,000 vehicle, I'm sure they can afford the purchase and use.
And I-
The Republican minority leader is.
Oh, there we go.
Tax according to what they can afford. Is that what she just said?
I'll do it very
No, we're
good.
treating everybody fairly, right?
I don't know.
As a point of
Price-
clarity,
price for you.
the intent for this is to allow a pathway for registration, assuming that somebody, a Vermonter, wants to register this vehicle and drive this here. A manufacturer registering a vehicle here and then selling it outside of the state of Vermont would create additional barriers. And so again, that's the language here, is to allow a pathway for registration on a limited capacity, because there are other pathways on the federal level for things like getting VIN verifications on these, going through a NHTSA process. And those are different bars. So I believe the intent was to allow on the local level, state level, at least the ability, as you had said, somebody to be able to buy one of these $600,000+, if that's what they are. This again allows other manufacturers to come forward and get that registered through.
And that registration may be subject to the purchase use tax? Is there a cap on this particular vehicle?
There should not be a max tax. This would follow our normal personal vehicle 6%.
Can I just add that the guy that was here the other day told us that $600,000 was the base model.
They can be anybody true.
This is what we want to stop and check out.
Certainly, if they want to donate a cruiser,
Pursuit vehicle.
yeah,
Yeah,
So the DMP is okay with the language all as it is,
yes.
and then if we were to make the change to clarify that there's new registration, you'd be fine with that.
Otherwise, we'd have to.
And we're okay with creating a law and an entire effort for one vehicle.
Well, that's another question. Yeah, that conversation later.
Okay, well, that's where we'll be into that conversation at some point, but not right now, so. There were quite a few notes on this section, how California had the 500, they had 325. Then we're still gonna, when the ENR comes in for the other piece, they'll comment on these non-limited exemptions to emissions tests. Anything else? Let's refill. Okay, anybody have anything else? Any other questions? Well, we appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
We appreciate your flexibility when the floor doesn't end as expected, and anybody else have any